want to give a shout out to Rudy, who has been, is Sony going to do what they regularly do and do a sneak attack? And it has something that is absolutely amazing to me. Facial, maybe they caught him stealing cameras or something. They're like, hey, we had to get rid of him. The Canon R5 Mark II is here. By now, you've heard the announcements, you've seen all the videos. They're a little biased, right? They're the people who get the cameras earlier. They're the ones that are ambassadors or they're retailers. They're there to market for Canon. Essentially, that's why they're there. Every Canon manufacturer has those. We understand that. But let's look at it from a non-biased perspective. I'm someone who's been using Canon since the 5D Mark II. I bought the 7D, 5D Mark II, 5D Mark III, 5D Mark IV, Canon R5, R6, R6 Mark II. This is the R5 right here, the original OG, shooting on the R6 Mark II. However, we make our commercials with Blackmagic 6K. Weddings, we shoot with the Panasonic. And I got rid of my Panasonic. I want to get rid of the Blackmagic, and I want to go with a system that was kind of like my C70. We used to shoot with that, but a little bit better picture quality, a little bit, more for the value. So I was debating on getting the R5C, getting the R3, and I was like, they're going to make the announcement soon. It's either going to be the R1 or R5 Mark II or both, and we have both of them right now. So should you buy these cameras? What are the things that they're not telling you, and what should you look out for? So that's what this video is going to be about. It's from someone that actually makes money shooting weddings, commercials, content, whatever it is. We're not just studio reviewers. We're not just shooting out in wherever Canon tells us and saying like, this camera does this, cool. Or we're out in the streets with my buddy here and we shot and we got these results. Amazing camera, buy it. It's not that. So let's get into it. Let me tell you a couple of the things that are very exciting about this camera. So for me, we finally have C-Log 2 for video. If you're shooting video, we finally get the maximum dynamic range. We don't have to shoot raw and convert or shoot C-Log 3 and then be disappointed that we have to edit C-Log 3 and, bow our heads down to the Sony guys that they get S-Log 2, S-Log 3. Panasonic gets V-Log ever since, I think, the GH5S. So we finally have C-Log 2. Absolutely great. We have the improved autofocus. So, this camera right here, the R5 is amazing, but the autofocus is not perfect, especially for video. The R5C was actually below this. The C70 was below the R5C. So Canon kind of struggles with autofocus. And we've seen people with the FX3, FX6, how amazing their autofocus cameras, the autofocus on their cameras have been. So we finally have something that is probably better than theirs because we have better AI incorporated in there for basically trying to figure out what you're going to shoot and for them predicting it. Like in the sporting modes, it knows that where you're going to pass the ball if someone's playing basketball, soccer, football. And it has something that is absolutely amazing to me. Facial recognition for autofocus. So like, let's say we're shooting a wedding and we lock in on the bride. We can tell the camera that that's the person we want to be in focus when we're shooting. So anytime we're shooting at the wedding, let's say for the ceremony, it's going to lock on the bride. We're not going to actually miss focus and maybe get someone that looks like the bride in the ceremony. Or if the officiant looks like the bride, it's not going to lock on to the officiant. You know how it is these days. It's not going to lock on to the officiant. So it gives us like a facial recognition AI, which is absolutely amazing. I want to see that in action. I want them to prove to me that this works because that sounds really exciting. We supposedly have better battery life with the new batteries. Great. We have 8K 60p in RAW, meaning we don't need that external battery. We don't need a V mount to get that power. It just shoots it. You can use the battery that comes with it, and it's going to shoot. It's like a red V-Raptor. It's that good. It's that high quality. People are probably not going to be able to difference if you shot with the R5 Mark II, a $4,300 camera versus a V-Raptor that's like $30K. Sure, on moving shots, people are going to be like, oh, that has global shutter. The new XL has global shutter. You're only shooting on a DSLR mirrorless, whatever. So sure, there's going to be some differences, but overall, you're getting 8K 60p. You're trying to shoot commercials that you have to crop in for like certain headshot parts from a picture. You can do that now. It makes those easier. So it's obviously better than the R3, better than the R5C, more dynamic range, supposedly 16 stops. So that's realistically what, 14 stops, which is better than the R5C, better than the R3, autofocus better than both of them. Absolutely great. So where are the issues with this camera? Because there's issues. There's no maybe cripple hammer, but there are issues. So what they're kind of not really telling you, these people who are reviewing it, because either they're unable to, or they don't want to piss off Canon that's standing right next to them, is that although there are vents in the camera is still going to overheat. It will overheat. When is it going to overheat? 45 minutes, I think, for 4K 120p. Less than that if you're shooting in 8K 60p. So what? We're getting 10 minutes of 8K 60p. That's not good. That's not Raptor. That's not Red territory. I mean, I know the Red's 30K, but I thought, we're trying to match those guys. We're trying to get as close as to that. That's what Canon's trying to do, get as close as possible to these big guys to take you away from buying them, to take market share away. Anyways, that's a different debate, different video. So you're limited. So what's the solution? They actually have a grip now that has the fan. Great. But what does it extend it to? Does it make the 45 minutes now an hour and a half? Does it make a 4K 60p that could last an hour and a half? Does that make it 3 hours now? How long is it now? And we don't have those answers yet. So until we get real people like myself who are not sponsored, we're not ambassadors to anyone, until we get those in our hands and actually film and tell you, hey, we're in San Diego in Orange County and we're filming in October or September on a wedding and my camera overheated in an hour, until we get those results, these don't mean anything. Because if you remember the R5 when it was overheating, people complained so much and mocked Canon so much that Canon went back and did multiple firmware releases to address that, so that now this R5 I can shoot in 4K 120. It still overheats, but nowhere near as often as then. My 4K 60p doesn't really overheat. My R6 Mark I overheated. My R6 Mark II does not overheat in 4K 60. We've shot hours with it in the summer. It just doesn't overheat. It can, but it doesn't overheat. So although maybe the R5 II can overheat, is it going to? Maybe not. Maybe the grip is only going to be beneficial if you're shooting 8K 60p. Other than that, it's really not going to overheat. So until we see those real life examples, these don't mean anything. So we've been looking to upgrade. And the question now is, do we wait for a new camera? Do we get an R3? Do we get an R5C? Do we get the S5 II? S5 II is great, but it has its limitations. And we predominantly shoot the S5 because you can go handheld and get stabilization. But the stabilization on the R5 II is supposedly better than that. So it doesn't make sense to go to the S5 II, even though it's about half price. So what does that mean? That means, do we get the R5 II, or is Sony going to do what they regularly do and do a sneak attack right before the R5 II ships? Meaning on August 16, 17, 18, 19, they're going to release the FX3 Mark II or FX4 or FX5, whatever their marketing way is. They're going to release their new camera. So you see that they're offering 8K without any overheating, because those cameras don't overheat. They have an internal fan, and you're going to cancel your order, which that might be me, because I have pre-ordered the R5 II with the fan grip, and I will cancel it and jump ship to Sony, or jump ship to the S2H, if that's what Panasonic names its successor to the S1H. If they release those and those have internal fans, those do not overheat and they have amazing quality, I will go that route, because I'd rather have something reliable and consistent like that versus something like the R5 II, which is going to have RAW and it's going to have all these amazing things, but it is not going to be reliable in its full capacity. So that's what this comes down to, and it's going to be everybody deciding for themselves. I'm absolutely excited. That's why I put in a pre-order. And just so you know, I put in a pre-order through BH, because that way I can return the camera if it's overheating within, those 30 days. If I feel it's a crap camera, I'm going to return it. Versus if you do Best Buy, I think you have a 20% restocking fee. Our local guys, Sammy's, great place to buy, but returning is sometimes a very, 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 very tough hassle. It's probably the hardest place to return something. So if you don't want to deal with the 20% restocking fee, you got to buy it somewhere like Adorama or BH, so that you're able to return it if there's issues with it. And that's what I would recommend you do. If you want to be an early adopter, have the ability to return it, because you don't want to get stuck with a 20% restocking fee, obviously. So that's my 2 cents. And also, I want to give a shout out to Rudy, who has been a Canon person that we look up to when all these cameras have been released. And they fired him or they got rid of him. Something happened. But I expected him to go out with these 2 cameras, meaning he was going to introduce these cameras, go into depth with them, and then, say, hey, these are the last videos I'm making. I'm out. We're ending with Canon on good terms. and that'd be that. But the fact that they got rid of Rudy right before these kind of also rubs me the wrong way. So shout out to Rudy. I hope to see you on your own YouTube channel so we can follow you, get your perspective, get your insight, get your wisdom. And if you jump ship, then I guess whoever company picks you up, it's to their benefit to have you on their team, because Canon obviously went with the new people who I'm not a big fan of. I don't think a lot of people are a big fan of either, because they just don't seem like they're comfortable with the camera. They don't seem like they're confident in the tech. They don't seem experienced enough. So that's a little bit of a disappointment on Canon side, aside from everything else. So for me, it's the overheating that is still a problem and might be a game deal breaker. I may cancel my order because of that, depending on how bad it is. And the fact that they got rid of Rudy, which Rudy was the face of Canon, but maybe they caught him stealing cameras or something, and they're like, hey, we had to get rid of him. I don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. We can only speculate. Thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel, remember, I'm not bought by anyone. No one's sponsoring this channel. I have my own store. Click the link before. I sell little PDFs to things that can help you, that have helped me in my business, that things that I still use every day, and contracts and treatments and things like that. Thanks for watching. This was Arash.